Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am continuing my little mini series on clothing and chronic illness. So in this video, I will be talking to you guys about how I shop and some tips and tricks to sort of save money on not just saving money, but also uh, selecting clothing that works for you and also saving money. So I do have some limitations. I cannot shop inside any brick and mortar stores. So I did a video very, very long time ago describing my light sensitivity issues. It's a very long, complicated story, but one of my big problems is fluorescent lighting. And if you know anything about shopping here in the United States, it's that almost every single store is lit with fluorescent lights. Um, it's either fluorescent or maybe like LED, some kind of light, artificial light. You're not going to see incandescent lighting in a lot of places, even restaurants nowadays. Which I can tolerate incandescent lighting. I actually have one lit right here next to me, but it's just not a type of lighting that we're really using anymore. So, how do I shop? One of the places that I do shop at, or that I did shop at for a long time, is the swap meet. And for those of you that are not here on the West Coast, a swap meet is essentially an outdoor flea market. There are indoor flea markets, by the way, but the ones that I'm talking about are outdoor because I need to be outside, away from any kind of artificial lighting. That was the primary way that I did my shopping until the pandemic hit. So the pandemic definitely threw a wrench in my shopping. Not that I needed to be shopping, but it absolutely did sidetrack me for a while there. So I did have to find other ways to shop. I can use my smartphone in limited amounts. And so I started having to do online shopping, and that presents its own challenges, which I did say I was going to elaborate on those in this video. So one of the things, the cost is a big issue for those of us that are chronically ill, possibly living on a budget. And accessibility, like I said, me having to go into a store is very difficult. I know that there are probably people out there that can't go to an outdoor swap meet because it requires a lot of walking, or if you're a wheelchair user, it's crowded and you may not be able to navigate around that. On top of the fact that we had a big pandemic this past year and a lot of us are immune deficient and cannot be around crowds of people, even with a mask, it's probably a bit of a risk. But I am going to talk about my swap meet shopping as well as some of the newer ways that I have discovered to shop. So, during this year of the pandemic, I had to really rediscover Amazon and eBay and other online shopping apps. Nordstrom Rack was a big one as well, especially if you're on a budget. And there are a lot of, with Amazon, you have something called I think it's called Amazon Wardrobe. If you've got Prime, I believe you can do Amazon Wardrobe, which you can purchase several items and have them sent to you. You're not charged for them. You try them on, and then you just keep what you like and you send back the other stuff. Obviously, that can also be complicated because you have to go to the post office or to UPS. I think sometimes you can send it from home because I think they have postage, but I think it really depends who you buy from. And again, cost can be an issue depending on what it is that you're buying. I always look, for lower cost things. You can sort when you're on the Amazon app. You can sort things from low cost to high cost. So all of the cheaper items appear at the top, and those are the first things that you see. But I found wardrobe to be helpful, especially because I'm very underweight and things don't always fit very well. I feel like everything seems to run kind of big. And Nordstrom Rack is very similar. So I got the app for Nordstrom Rack. You can do curbside pickup out here. I am in Southern California, so they do have curbside pickup at the local Nordstrom, even for Nordstrom Rack items. So I would just go park. You call the number, and they come down and they give you your package of your order. But again, some of the challenges that are presented with this is when something doesn't fit you, you have to return it. And so that's when you actually have to physically go inside the store and return it. And that's where I start kind of, running into some trouble, because I don't like being inside a store for very long because of the lighting. I will eventually start getting kind of like a migraine or head pressure, head pain, and that's not something that I want to be experiencing. So I have to really choose. I have to pick my battles. Do I really need this dress? Do I really, what is it that I really need? Do I really need to buy this here? I was mostly, during the pandemic, I was mostly buying like kind of stress buying, or just bored because I couldn't go out to the swap meet. So none of the stuff I really needed. It wasn't crucial. But I did see the advantages to having the curbside pickup, and of course the disadvantages to having to return. So I tried to make sure. After a while, it did get annoying, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be shopping from Nordstrom Rack anymore. But they do have a really good return policy. You could return at a regular Nordstrom store, and I found one where I didn't have to wait in line very long, and I would just go in quickly, return whatever I needed to return, and then come back out. And like I said, Amazon, you can just send it through the mail, or just go drop it off at at UPS or the post office, and it's very quick and easy. Um, eBay is another one that is a bit iffy. If you know your size, if that the item's going to fit you, that you like it, that it's going to be comfortable, it's a great place to shop because you can find really, really low prices. But again, return policy is a bit weird on there. So, sometimes you'll return something and they'll give you your money back for the item, but not for the shipping that you paid. So you sometimes end up losing money. And a lot of sellers can be a bit of a problem on there, depending on where, who you're buying from. But my number one is the swap meet. I have returned to the swap meet now that people are getting vaccinated. Southern California has a really good vaccination rate. And the swap meet has been open throughout the whole pandemic, but I just recently started going, I think in the last month or so. And I am going with an N95 mask. I am still unvaccinated. But I do go with an N95 and another mask on top of that. So I am masking up. I'm double masking, and I'm being very, very careful. The reason I like the swap meet, and the reason I highly recommend if you are able to go to the swap meet, if it's safe for you to do so, is because you can find some very, very expensive clothing for a lot less. You also can touch the clothing. You can also see the clothing, look at the sizing. It's a great way, even if you don't buy anything, because sometimes the clothes will be damaged, but it's a great way to familiarize yourself with different brands. And you can also start to find brands that will fit you. And for me, it's been very, very crucial, because when I started shopping at Nordstrom Rack and all of that during the pandemic, I was already familiar with a lot of the brands that they have at Nordstrom's. And I was able to kind of shop at a glance, because I knew what my size was, having seen a lot of these brands at the swap meet. At the swap meet, you will find a lot of resellers, people that are reselling returns or overstock items from Nordstrom's. And so that's how I was able to familiarize myself with a lot of very popular or a little bit higher end brands. I cannot advocate for the swap meet enough. It's just my favorite. You're outside. If you are a wheelchair user, you can possibly navigate. There is a big enough space between stalls for a wheelchair. It's just the people that may be the issue. There are a lot of people at the swap meet. Even during the pandemic, there were tons of people. But I feel like, if it's not too busy, you'll be able to get through, pretty okay. And like I said, you can touch the clothing, you can grab it, you can see whether it's stretchy. I love to look at tags, at care tags, to see what kind of material I'm dealing with. And if you feel it, it's soft, you think to yourself, this would be very comfortable for me. And you look at the tag and you say, okay, I know what that fabric is. So now when I do shop online, I will, I'll know what materials to look for. And also the pricing is very, very cheap. There was one swap meet that I used to go to where each piece was $3. They would have a bunch of tops. Each piece was $3. And all of it was from Nordstrom's. These were all Nordstrom brands. So I would be able to find some more expensive brands. Sometimes there would be a dress tucked in there, and I could get a dress for $3. I could get a pair of shoes for $7. It's very cost effective because you can't return anything to the swap meet, but you're also not really spending that much. It's not a huge loss if it doesn't fit you or if it's damaged. And like I said, you will find a lot of damaged pieces, but at the very least, it's an education. You can go there, you can familiarize yourself with the brand, and then go home, find it online, and purchase it. And you can also decide whether you want to invest in a retail priced item based on what you see and what you've observed at a swap meet. And I have sort of been able to do that myself. So that was sort of like my training for pandemic life, where I had to purchase everything through Amazon, through eBay, through Nordstrom Rack, and it was very, very helpful that I had all of that time at the swap meet to get to know my sizing, and get to know different brands. Now there are other apps, and they are very popular. I know Mercari and Poshmark are two very popular clothing reseller apps where you can find a lot of high-end clothing for good prices. I have shopped on there. I am also a seller on there, but I unfortunately do not recommend these apps. And here's a reason why. You cannot return things based on your size. So if you buy something, it doesn't fit you, that is not a reason to return it. It has to be damaged. It has to not match the description. Basically, the seller has to lie to you about the size. So say you bought something that's a size small and you get it and it's actually a size large and it says large on the tag. You have to provide proof that the seller was dishonest about what they're selling. If it was a size small and you got it and it just happens to be too big for you, that's literally your problem and you're stuck with the item. That's why I don't recommend those apps. I love them. If you are very familiar with a certain brand and your size in that brand and the fabric, those apps will probably work for you. I've actually bought a few pieces recently off of them and they fit just fine because I had already familiarized myself with the brand. So, it's iffy. I love selling on those apps and, I really should be plugging them a lot more, but these are the issues that I've run into when I bought things off of those apps. Also, too, you may buy something damaged and they may not give you your money back, because these apps are geared towards making money. And the last thing they want is for people to be constantly returning things because that's also a loss on their part. They do pay for postage. They pay for return postage and things like that. So it's costing them, sometimes it'll cost them more money to, grant you a return. So those are sort of my tips. During the pandemic, it was crucial for me to be able to return items because of size. And so that's where Nordstrom Rack, Amazon Wardrobe really came in handy, because I was even able to return stuff that got damaged after one wash. And so that was really, really helpful for me because when you're living on a fixed income, you can't really just be buying stuff and then just for it to get ruined after one wash. We are pinching our pennies. A lot of us pay for treatment out of pocket. We pay for our doctors out of pocket. We have supplements that we need to buy every month, and it's very expensive to be chronically ill. It's, clothing is sort of last on our list. But like I said, if you have a swap meet, I know swap meets are more common in warmer climates or more agreeable climates, such as Southern California. Um, so, if you are able to do in-store shopping, a place like Ross, a place like TJ Maxx would be sort of the in-store equivalent of a swap meet. The prices are going to be a little bit higher, but you will get to familiarize yourself with some higher end brands because they do sell some more expensive stuff. You'll get to touch the clothing, you'll get to look at the clothing, familiarize yourself with the sizing. That way, if sometimes I even think about the future. What if I become even more incapacitated and I can no longer go to a swap meet? I already can't go inside a clothing store, but I may not be able to go to a swap meet at all. For example, during the pandemic, it very much came in handy that I familiarized myself with a lot of brands. There's a lot of brands, not just, high end brands or whatever. There's tons of different brands of clothes that you can find at a swap meet. And so you get a feel for whether they run large or even what kinds of material. There are some brands that are just notorious for using, for example, 100% cotton. Or cotton modal if you're allergic to modal fabric or any kind of like natural fabric, you're going to want to stay away from that. And so there are some brands that are notorious for using very specific fabrics for their clothing, and you will know that once you see their brands over and over and over again. So those are my tips and tricks, not just for saving money, but for also saving yourself a headache when it comes to buying clothing, because it is a challenge. It's very much challenging for those of us who are sick. It's challenging on so many levels. If there are other things that I did not address in this video, feel free to leave them in the comments. I need any and all comments. They might give me more ideas for this little mini series. So please leave me some feedback down on the bottom. I hope to have maybe a couple more videos in this series, and maybe just some other general videos catching you up on my life almost post-pandemic, or almost out of this mess. So yeah, I'll see you again very soon. Take care, you guys.